journal, Eric declared it a triumph, writing, "It's all over now." This capped it off. 3 months before the assault, Eric and Dylan enlisted the help of someone they worked with, Phil Duran. He introduced the pair to another man, Mark Maines, who sold them a semi-automatic pistol for $500. Duran and Maines were later convicted and served time for selling a gun to minors. Once Eric and Dylan had their weapons, they'd overcome their biggest obstacle. Now they maintained a low profile, kept to a normal routine and attended classes. Did the teachers at Columbine notice any warning signs? Yes, an English teacher became alarmed about an essay by Dylan. February 1999. 2 months after making their Hitman video that went unreported by school officials, Dylan submitted an essay about a man in a trench coat who embarks upon a shooting spree. Alarmed, the teacher scheduled an appointment to meet Dylan's parents, and in a note to Dylan she wrote, "You are an excellent writer and storyteller, but I have some problems with this one."
The teacher did contact the parents. Parents said they would address the issue, and it stopped after that.
When confronted by his parents about the essay, Dylan told them it was just a story. His teacher did not report any further problems. But Eric and Dylan used the school's television production equipment again to produce a disturbing home video. This footage, recovered from Eric's home hours after the attack, helps answer the question, how did they learn to shoot with such accuracy? They practiced at a shooting range. March 1999. 1 month before their rampage, Eric and Dylan took a video camera to a makeshift firing range in the mountains just outside Denver. In the video, they can be seen honing their skills by firing at trees and bowling pins, and marveling at the destruction they can cause.
Tree exit. Imagine that in someone's fucking brain.
According to Columbine head teacher Frank DeAngelis, the school was unaware they had made this home video. In the following weeks, they built more bombs and finalized their plans. Then, after 12 months of preparation, they launched their assault on their target. On April the 20th, 1999, in a 49-minute rampage, Eric and Dylan gunned down a dozen students, 1 teacher, and wounded 24. After the attack, it was widely reported that the killers had a hit list of students. Did Eric and Dylan target specific students? No, everyone was a target. Eric and Dylan expected their bombs to do most of the killing. When they didn't go off, the two began firing indiscriminately.
Everyone they shot was a target of opportunity. That person just happened to be literally where they were when they were shooting.
One of the people who got in the way was teacher Dave Sanders, who died before he could be moved. Why did it take so long for help to arrive? SWAT teams had to secure the school room by room. When SWAT teams first entered the building, they moved towards the gunfire. But when the shooting stopped, they began a methodical room-by-room search for the gunmen.
When it goes quiet, and it adds a whole different dynamic. Now we're dealing with a possible hostage situation. You couldn't just run through the building and run to the library.
Police also found it difficult to navigate themselves around the school.
It wasn't just a school with a straight hallway with rooms on each side. Every room that you went into was a larger area that broke off into other areas.
In the aftermath of this tragedy, questions arose about what the killer's parents knew in the months before the assault.
I'm sure they spend many, many hours asking the question, what did we do wrong?
That's next, in the conclusion of the final report. April the 20th, 1999, Columbine High School. In a 49-minute rampage, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold murdered 12 students, 1 teacher, and injured 24, before turning their guns on themselves. Afterwards, victims and their families wondered how the pair could have planned this attack without their parents finding out, raising the question, what did their parents know? It appears Eric's parents did know of some troubling behavior. What Dylan's parents knew is less clear. Since the killings, both sets of parents have declined nearly all interview requests, speaking only to police through their lawyers. From these reports and from clues found in the evidence, it appeared Eric's parents had observed some disturbing behavior. 2 years before the assault, Eric's father, Wayne Harris, began a journal. In it, he documented some of Eric's conduct. Eric, he wrote, was unwilling to control sleep habits and unwilling to control study habits. A 1998 entry in Eric's journal seemed to indicate that his father had confronted him about making pipe bombs. He wrote, "I lie a lot. What are some big lies I've told? No, I haven't been making more bombs. I wouldn't do that."
Eric's skill at deceiving people, at hiding the things, at hiding his own reactions, helped him cover it all up.
After Eric and Dylan were arrested for breaking into the van in January 1998 and placed on probation, Eric was sent to a psychiatrist. His doctor prescribed an antidepressant, typically used to treat obsessive-compulsive disorder. According to Eric's parents, he took the medication regularly. But his pattern of lying continued. In May 1998, he wrote a letter of apology to the owner of the van he'd broken into.
He says, "I'm not just sorry I got caught. I'm sorry I did it, and I understand the difference." And at the same time that he's writing that, he's writing in his journal this rant saying, why shouldn't I have the right to break into a van of some mother effer who, leaves it out in the middle of nowhere?
In February 1999, Eric completed the diversion program, probation for first-time non-violent offenders.
The diversion officer wrote a glowing report saying that, he was a bright, wonderful young man who great things were going to happen to him someday. This was about a month and a half before the massacre.
As for Dylan's parents, less is known about their knowledge of their son's actions. After the shooting, Tom and Susan Klebold told police they hadn't noticed any recent unusual behavior, only that Dylan seemed a little sadder. In the final analysis, the most difficult question remains. Why did Eric and Dylan go on their murderous rampage? They wrote extensively about how they'd carry it out, but far less about why. Even so, their own words provide some hints. It seems revenge for their January 1998 arrest played a role. When Eric entered the youth diversion program, he wrote that the arrest was the most traumatic thing to him.
It was in April of 1998 they went before the judge and were put into this program. And not coincidentally, I think, is April of 98 is when Eric starts his journal. And when he writes the opening line, "I hate the effing world," and really starts planning it.
Later that month, in a note to Eric, Dylan also alluded to the arrest, writing, "We, the gods, will have so much fun, killing enemies, blowing up stuff, killing cops. My wrath for January's incident will be godlike." Clinical psychologist and the FBI's senior investigator, Duane Fusilier, analyzed the writings and videos left behind by Eric and Dylan.
Eric, and by inclusion Dylan, were better than everyone else. Truly had a contempt for, in his own words, the entire human race.
On a website, Eric described his fascination with Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. He wrote, "Natural selection? Damn, it's the best thing that ever happened to the Earth. Getting rid of all the stupid and weak organisms."
Eric Harris talks in his journal about how he would like to put everybody in a super doom game and see, you know, whoever can fend for themselves and get out lives, whoever doesn't, doesn't.
On the day of the shooting, Eric wore a white T-shirt with the words "Natural Selection" printed on the front. Dylan's black T-shirt said "Roth." Although their medical records remain sealed, there is evidence that the two suffered serious psychological problems. While Dylan ranted aloud about his alleged superiority, privately, his journal entries suggest a self-loathing.
In some of his writings, he's extremely elated because he's found the girl of his dreams, and then literally a month later, his next writing says, "I want to die, this girl doesn't know who I am."
And underneath Eric's pleasant exterior was an angry, deluded adolescent.
Eric had a tremendous amount of anger, hatred, the lack of a conscience. He simply didn't care about hurting other people, wanted to hurt other people, and wanted to hurt almost everyone.
In the final report, it's clear that in the year leading up to the assault, there were opportunities that could have exposed the plot to attack Columbine. But information was not fully shared between local police, the school, and the parents, and the plot went unnoticed.
He had all of the different pieces of information that people had. People in the community, friends, parents, school administrators, law enforcement, had all those entities somehow gotten that information together. Yes, it would have been very alarming.
In May 2000, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department released its official report on the shootings. It contained a detailed timeline and nearly 10,000 pieces of evidence. The report concluded that Eric and Dylan acted without outside help. Yet some documents remain classified. The unreleased material includes videotapes known as the basement tapes, in which Eric and Dylan reportedly discussed their motives for the massacre. Officials cite the potential for copycat crimes as the reason for withholding these tapes and documents. By August 2003, the parents of Dylan and Eric had settled lawsuits with nearly all the families of the slain and injured students. Both families still live in Jefferson County. The repercussions of the Columbine murders were felt nationwide. Schools nationwide have adopted so-called zero-tolerance policies concerning weapons and violent behavior, and improved crisis response plans. Despite these programs, school-associated violence remains a problem. Between May 1999 and 2006, approximately 100 students were killed in school shootings across America. In 2006 alone, in 7 separate school shootings, 10 students were killed. Some survivors of Columbine made miraculous recoveries. Patrick Ireland, who was shot in the head twice, spent 7 months in rehabilitation. He made a nearly full recovery and graduated in 2000.
I was focusing on me getting better, getting back to as strong as I could, as smart as I could, and I was able to do that.
Nevertheless, that horrifying day in April 1999 has left a permanent scar on those who experienced the massacre firsthand.